Yeah, absolutely. Now, before we get into the real diary this week, we do have to say very, very special happy birthday, 40th happy birthday to Jodie Whittaker and Arthur Darvill, who are both 40 this
They never are.
I mean, it is quite bizarre that they both happen to share exactly the same, not only the same day, but the same birth date. So they are both 40 today. So we wish you a very happy birthday for today, both of you. But we're not going to talk about you today. But I'm sure we'll talk about you to another date. But what we are going to talk about today, we're first and foremost, we're going back to 2007 for this one, because it's exactly 15 years ago that we were settling down to watch Utopia, which was actually one of my favorite episodes from New Who, actually, for the whole new run of New Who. This was towards the end of the season 3 run. And for anybody that has not yet seen Utopia, I warn you now, we're going to talk about a couple of things that might spoil things for you. So if you haven't might to just sort of tune us out for 30 seconds. This was, of course, the very first time we get to see the Master. There's the spoiler, since the Curse of Fatal Death, when he was played by Jonathan Pryce so memorably. And it's also the first time we get to see the Master regenerate. And as we can see there, it's the of Captain Jack. So this is quite a momentous episode. Professor Yana played just brilliantly by the incomparable Derek Jacobi. And apparently Russell specifically asked for Derek Jacobi's character to be Hartnelled up in his words. He wanted a William Hartnell look. I'm not entirely certain that they really went for broke on that one, personally.
I suppose the waistcoat and the pocket watch.
Yes, it's got a bit of a look, but I think anyway, it doesn't matter. Derek Jacobi's performance is brilliant. The way the episode, it's got, I think, a remarkable sense of doom about it and inevitability as you go through the episode. And you know, I'm often not particularly a big fan of Russell's writing, but I have to say on this one, he really understands how to create a narrative that as we move through every minute, you begin to get a greater sort of feeling of dread that something big is building, and sure enough it does. And you know, the last few minutes when
they're electrifying, aren't they? It is one of those episodes.
Electrifying is the perfect word for it, and it's absolutely what every Doctor Who episode needs. And so, as I say, spoilers alert here. Yes, Professor Yana, played by Derek Jacobi, suddenly regenerates in front of our eyes into the brand new Master, and everybody, you know, around the world is just applauding wildly. And what I think is lovely, and I didn't actually notice this at the time that it went out, maybe because I was just so in awe of what they'd actually pulled off, that you get to hear all of the previous actors to play the Master swirling around in the.
They included them in the sound, didn't they? In the soundtrack during the regeneration.
Yeah, absolutely. Eric Roberts was due to be in there, and he's not in there. He gave permission, and Fox refused permission. I mean, go figure. You've got to ask yourself the question, haven't you? What do they got to lose? What was the problem? But we hear Ainley's laugh. But most poignantly, we hear Roger Delgado deliver the lines, destroy him and give your powers to me. And these lines are taken from episode 5 of The Demons, which, by the bizarrest coincidence, was screened on the exact same time however many years earlier, in 1971. So actually the words that we hear from Delgado in Utopia were actually spoken by Delgado. What is that? How many years ago is that? Somebody do the maths for me. 30 years. 30 years previously, at the very same time. That's quite clever. And finally, on this one, what is even more poignant is it's actually exactly also this week, 49 years since we lost Roger Delgado. His death actually coincides in this very week as well, 49 years ago. So it's in some weird, and I hate the phrase, but in some timey-wimey Doctor Who kind of way, 'twas ever meant to be. Doctor Who works in mysterious ways, and
they're great at giving those kisses back to the past. Well, Russell was good at doing that, wasn't he, JT? In a very innocuous way. It didn't distract.
It didn't distract at all, but then he knew that it couldn't do, because he was still bringing in a brand new audience with the show at that point.
Yeah, true. What else is in the diary this time?
We now go back a lot further. We go back 58 years to the Aztecs, episode 4, the very final episode. Yeah. So we were just closing out this week in 1964, 58 years ago. We were closing out on the Aztecs with the 4th episode, wonderfully, deliciously called "The Day of Darkness," which actually sounds to me like a Russell T Davies title.
Season finale.
And of course, this is the story where we get William Hartnell's famous speech of "You can't rewrite history, not one line," which still resonates, through Doctor Who history to this day. This story was written by John Lucarotti, apparently on his yacht in Mallorca, as you do, and it was beautifully designed by Barry Newbury, who had designed the very first serial, An Unearthly Child.
It's exquisite, isn't it?
It's beautiful, magnificent design, and actually, this is the Aztecs is the very, very first story ever to be recorded at BBC Television Centre. After Verity Lambert had really put up a major, she kicked up a fuss big time, as only Verity Lambert could do, and to get them out of Lime Grove, which were the dated studios.
That was tiny, wasn't it?
Yeah, and so they finally got out of Lime Grove into Television Centre. But actually, ironically, episode 4, which we're celebrating today, actually had to go back to Lime Grove. They got kicked back out again. Lime Grove, bless them. And you might not be surprised to learn that this is Jacqueline Hill's, was reportedly Jacqueline Hill's favourite story. No surprise whatsoever. If anybody has not seen this, I cannot recommend this story highly enough. It's magnificent. You can also see, we've been talking about villains today, and you can see on screen there Tlatoxel in the middle, the high priest of sacrifice, who is absolutely electric performance by John Ring. I mean, it's a mesmeric performance as a villain. It's a beautiful story. It's magnificent. It's, in my opinion, by far the best historical story. So if you've got a couple of
people asking Simon in the chat, does this one exist in full? It does, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It exists in full. You can go and watch this anytime you like. It's out on DVD. Please, just do yourselves a favour. If you've been put off by historicals in the past, just watch the Aztecs and then come back and tell me that you didn't love it. So
great.
I think that's one of the few stories I haven't actually seen.
You haven't seen it?
You should.
No.
Oh, you
Brilliant.
should.
Charlotte, have you seen this?
Oh, yes, and I love it as well. I think it's just got that presence. It's got that sort of grandness, and I love Barbara anyway, and I think this episode is maybe the episode I probably did fall a bit in love with Barbara's character, because
you really get a feeling for it, don't you?
Yeah, she's so sure she's right throughout the whole of the story until the very end bit, when she finally starts to sort of realise. And I love it that they didn't have her really quickly go, oh no, okay, Doctor, you're right. No, she stuck to her guns, and that's why I really loved her. And I think, yes, this is such a good character in Barbara.
It's very adult, isn't it, Charlotte? It's a very adult story.
Well, it's Aztecs. You can't do a nice story about the Aztecs, can you?
I suppose not.
Exactly, head on. They
would today.
At all.
Well, that's the difference in modern storytelling, not just in Doctor Who, in multiple shows where they just don't examine. I mean, this is technically a children's show that was on tea times, and as you so rightly say, Charlotte, it explored the moral dilemma that the principal characters were in against that backdrop of that particular culture, and I think it didn't avoid, I wouldn't say particularly dark questions, but realities of the time and things that kids would have seen in textbooks and they would have been aware of to some extent. And so to see it played out like that, and somebody from our time placed in that situation, incredibly potent and absolutely worth watching, anybody who hasn't come across it yet.
Absolutely. And again, rather deliciously by another of those wonderful Doctor Who coincidences, today, of course, we celebrate the birthday of Carol Ann Ford, who course, plays Susan so brilliantly in the Aztecs. I'm not going to embarrass Carol Ann by saying how old she is. She looks wonderful anyway. I was lucky enough to see her at Capitol being interviewed a couple of months ago, and she's still as electric now as she was then. She played 51 episodes of Doctor Who she was in. And of course, she was the very, very first companion to actually leave. She was one of the original 3 companions in Doctor Who, and she was the first one to leave. And so it was a momentous occasion when she did leave at the end of the Dalek invasion of Earth. She started a film career when she was just 8. She first appeared on film when she was 8. She became a glamour model, believe it or not, in the 50s.
Some very provocative pictures of her. I didn't know she was actually a glamour model there.
Yeah, she was actually a glamour model.
About 26 then, wasn't she?
After she left Doctor Who, she played a role. I think it might have been in Z-Cars where she played the best way I can describe it, I think, is a questionable role.
Okay. Was she a lady of the night?
She got into a lot of trouble for that, didn't she?
And apparently she got letters of complaint about it because of the fact that children had identified with her so much as the role of Susan that the parents were not very happy that she was now appearing in a rather morally challenging role. She was also in the great St. Trinity's train robbery, and brilliantly in my favourite version of Dave the Triffids from 1963. I think I'm one of the few people in the world that loves that film and loves. I just love her performance in it. And she left. She really drifted away from acting in 1977 because she hurt her back filming a commercial, and she suffered an extreme reaction to the painkillers she was given, and became very, very ill as a result. And she was forced to drift away from acting.
I'd always wondered about that because I've seen her in so few things.
But she did so much stage when she left Doctor Who, and she did suffer. She has said that she suffered from being typecast as Susan, and she said at one point she sort of said in many ways doing Doctor Who was the very worst thing that she could have done because it did to an extent stymie her career. There's no two ways about it. People saw her as a 15-year-old girl all the time. Of course, she wasn't. She was mid-20s at this point, and she got a child.
Generally speaking, there's a lot worse things than be considered an eternal teenager, Matt, aren't there? I certainly like that.
Yeah. Can I ask? Has anyone met her on the panel?
I have.
And she's
what's she like?
You can imagine.
Yeah, I'd love to meet her.
Adorable. I still remember getting an autograph from Caroline a few years ago, standing in the queue, and William Russell was there as well, and I was with my partner, and we were standing there waiting for our books to be, and William Russell said, "Oh, hello, two nice young gentlemen, are you brothers?" And Caroline said, "No, they're just very good friends, Will."
Very good.
Sarah Graham, Starry-Eyed Girl, she tells a brilliant story about the time that she met Carol Ann Ford, except that Carol, she didn't recognise Carol Ann. It was in a ladies' lavatory, and Sarah didn't realise until after she'd left. She bumped into Carol Ann Ford was there with Katie Manning. They were washing their hands. And
lucky they're not open cubicles like men's.
The affection for Carol Ann Ford in the live chat here on YouTube and Facebook is it's in abundance. People are saying to make her a dame, happy birthday, Carol Ann, wishing her well, saying how much they love her, and we need to get her back in the show. We've been saying on this show for weeks, Shah, that if there's one person to bring back for the 60th anniversary, if we can only have one companion back, should it be Susan? Should it be Carol Ann Ford again? What do you reckon?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Game Closet Retro says she would have been brilliant with Capaldi, and she absolutely would, in my opinion. I think those two would just bounce off each other so well. I would love to see her back. It is such a shame that she's not acting anymore, but I've got a feeling if they said to her, just do one, she might just say yes. I would love that to be the case, yeah.
I love the fact that the original version of Susan was more alien, and even though she had to tone it down and everything, she still comes across as alien, you know, from not of this world.
She's got such an unusual look, hasn't she, Matt, as well? She's got the big, dark eyes, very piercing. Her voice as well. You know, I've seen her in other things, other movies, and I've seen her in The Likely Lads, other TV shows in the 70s. And she still seems like somebody who I won't necessarily say who's eccentric as such, but she's just got this star quality about her. She's obviously very attractive. Yeah, presence.
I think it's fair to say she is eccentric to an extent. Yeah, I think she was perfectly cast as. No, you disagree, JT?
Oh, I think eccentric is kind. I mean, she's Fruit Loop.
Really?
I mean, I've seen Carol and Katie in the same room, and please. Please, I mean, I had to turn to drink. I mean, please.
And well, she's very much out and in the community. She was out and about just a couple of weekends ago, wasn't she, Simon? Where was this? Where was Carol Ann here?
This was at Riverside, the old Riverside Studios, as was, and they were this was literally just a couple of weeks ago on the 29th of May. They were rededicating the Blue Heritage plaque to Verity Lambert, and so they see Waris Hussein on the right, and so they were rededicating this plaque to her. And there were various people there. Another absolute barking mad eccentric. Her name has slipped my mind from Dragonfire.
Patricia Quinn.
Patricia Quinn, absolutely mad as a box of frogs in the best possible way. So anyway, dear old Carol Ann Ford was there to rededicate this plaque because I can't remember why it's had to be rededicated. Has it been moved or something?
Well, Riverside was refurbished, wasn't it? It's now a sort of an arts installation, not a community centre as such, but it's a space where people can host art projects and they do special screenings and things, I believe. So the plaque was put into storage for about 7 years in the end. So they rededicated. I think that the Dwas were involved somewhere along the line, and so all these luminaries from Doctor Who past, like Philip Hinchcliffe, he was there too, and other people that she'd worked with on other projects. Like say, Patricia Quinn was there, Caroline Quinton was there from Jonathan Creek.
Well, of course, you know, we sort of obsess over Verity Lambert. We think she's ours because she produced Doctor Who, but we forget that actually, you know, her career is incredible.
Adam Ant, didn't she? She did that one.
Yeah, she did Adam Ant, absolutely. She did so much stuff.
There's Waris Hussein and Stephen Moffat unveiling the plaque there.
Can I ask a question? Does actually putting a plaque on an actual house, does that prevent it from being demolished and everything, or?
Sadly not. Sadly not. The buildings have to be listed to be protected. Getting a blue plaque shows the historical relevance to the British culture, but it doesn't mean that somebody doesn't, you know, they can still knock it down if they want to.
It's a shame though, isn't it? It really is.
Oh, it's criminal in some cases.
Yeah.
But anyway, so coming back to Dear Carol, just for briefly to finish off on, when I saw her at Capitol back in May, she was presented the Lifetime Achievement Award by Dwas as well, and she was just so wonderfully humbled. You know, she had a tear in her eye. She was very touched and moved to be given this award and to be recognised for her contribution to Dwas. She's just lovely. She's a beautiful human being, I think it's fair to say. So very, very, very happy birthday to you today.
Happy birthday.
Absolutely.
Happy birthday.
Oh yeah, I think
we love you,
Carol Ann Ford. And since Verity, I suppose Verity was the first lady of Doctor Who. If there's anybody who's inherited that, Verity Lambert died in about 2007, 2008, didn't she? It probably is Carol Ann Ford. And you know, I say this playfully because obviously we, as fans, even though we'd like to think that they're listening and they're on the same wavelength as us, and we'd love to have her back. Maybe it's possible. Maybe it isn't. Maybe she would turn it down. Maybe she's overacting. Maybe she's done with it. I don't know. It's for her to her to know and us to find out, I suppose. But I could just find it irresistible.
I think if she was offered a part in the 60th, she would jump at it. She wouldn't even think.
Thanks, as always, Simon, for putting together that selection from that treasure tome, the Doctor Who Diary. We're going to head back now to the main console room and see what's going on. See, actually, we've got another destination to go to. But yeah, thank you, everybody. I know you love this segment. So let us know what you'd like to see or hear more of. And don't forget to also put your birthday greetings and favourite Carol Ann Ford moments here in the comment section. We've got a comment section full of lively debate virtually on the weekly, so keep that coming. We love the engagement, and don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the cloister bell so you get all the notifications. Thanks again, Simon.